what's going to happen is you're going to be with me for the next, my timer says hour and 16 minutes now. And at the very end, what's going to happen is you're going to see this little message come up that says, breakout room will end in 2 minutes. And you can just not do anything and just let it do its thing. And you will end up back in the main room. And it's going to be an automatically timed thing, and it will get you there automatically. Now, at the same time, there will, when you see that message, there will be a blue box that says exit room or join main room, one of those two things. You can click that if you want to, but you don't have to. You are going to get back to the main room automatically. So there's no need for you to do anything. And like I said, it's just on a timer, so it's automatically going to bring us back there in about an hour and 15 minutes. So lot to cover in a really short period of time. And so I apologize in the beginning. It's going to feel like you're kind of drinking from a fire hydrant with everything that there is to share with you. But kind of got to know you all a little bit and share with you a little bit about myself. I've been involved with PWOC for the past 16 years, from our first duty station at Fort Campbell till now. And we're at Fort Knox right now, but we are PCSing next week. So literally the Packers are coming on Monday. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind week for me. And you all are military people, you understand how that goes. We've also been at Vilsec, served at PWC at Vilsec, Germany, and at Graf, Fort Jackson twice in South Carolina, and Fort Polk, Louisiana. As far as like, what have I been doing for PWC? I've held almost every board position, but I really enjoy being the VP of Spiritual Life because teaching and training and equipping others is my passion. And I'm a teacher by trade, and I've sense that's something God has gifted me with. And I enjoy sharing the gifts he's given me with others. And family-wise, in December, my hubby and I will be celebrating 25 years of marriage, and he is a chaplain. We do have 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and they are both married. So during our breakout time, I'm going to give you a lot of tools and information and some advice and words of wisdom to help you with your role. At the end, I hope we've got some time. I'm going to hopefully get this all in and get time at the end to share with you some words of wisdom coming from others who have held this position as well. I reached out to 10 other ladies that I know personally whom have had this position before. And I asked them, okay, here's what I'm doing. And at the end, I would love to tell the ladies and hear words of wisdom from a whole bunch of us, not just me. And so I got a lot of feedback about that from those friends. So some of those I'm going to be sharing with you while I'm talking, and then some of them we'll hold off till the end. Some of you, I really appreciate that you put in some comments on the Survey Monkey, and you had questions about spiritual life things. So I've incorporated those questions through the presentation part when I'm doing explanations about things. I took into consideration when I built this what some of your questions and concerns were. So hopefully you access the handouts, and from now on I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with you, and we'll go through the presentation that way. Okay. So you should be seeing a screen that says First VP Spiritual Life. So the handouts, if you didn't get them, when you clicked on the link, it brought you to this virtual training page with all of our resources, and the opening session downloads were in here. And then underneath it, the breakout session downloads. And then here we are at First VP Spiritual Life. This whole column has the different things I'm going to be talking about today. And the one that I'm going through that you're going to see on the screen is the Spiritual Life Training, the one that says notes at the top. And if you chose to print it out, we kind of, we said in the email that if you wanted to take notes on something, the ones that say notes in the front would be the appropriate ones to actually print out if you didn't want to print out all of them. So this is what it looks like, what the handout looks like that's going to be the notes. Okay, so let's just dig right in. What are the responsibilities of Spiritual Life Vice President? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? Well, we do have, like Lauren mentioned, the Women's Ministry Manual, which is found on the hub. And again, it's a guide. We do not have like a standard anymore that everybody has to adhere with or to. But it pretty much, being a part of PWOC has enabled us to continue what was started and documented and put in the Women's Ministry Manual as a guide. So you're responsible for the Bible study selection, of course, and we've talked about this a lot this morning. I'm so glad how thoroughly they covered it. We're going to be using the yearly theme, if it's available at that time, and the 4 aims according to the needs of the women while we're, to help us with our Bible study selections. We're also going to be selecting the facilitators or teachers or care group leaders, whatever it is that you want to call them in your group. Also training them and encouraging them throughout the year. You're also going to be having the role of taking care of the devotional times. That does not mean that you're doing them, but you're coordinating them at the regular meetings, and maybe also at your board meetings. We'll talk about that a little bit. And you'll be the prayer coordinator if the position is vacant. Again, you're the coordinator. It doesn't mean you have to be the one and only person to pray at everything. And another thing that people sometimes overlook is the fact that if the presidency becomes vacant during this term, you're the one who's supposed to step in and fill those shoes. So sometimes we get very excited and wrapped up in the spiritual life part and the teacher and the training and equipping, and our president's gone and we weren't kind of aware of some of the things that have been happening during the year, and she leaves and we don't know. So that's just always something to kind of have in the back of your mind and be aware of. Okay, what are not the responsibilities? First of all, I put in there the growth and actions of others, and you might be like, wait a minute, Margaret, we are supposed to be helping them spiritually grow. Well, yes, but you're not responsible for an individual lady's own personal spiritual growth or lack thereof. The individual spiritual growth that you are responsible for is your own personal growth. You're responsible for what God has called you to do as his servant in this role, which means incorporating the 4 aims into your position, offering the ladies studies that are biblically sound, giving them opportunities to hear God's word through the studies and the devotions, showing them how to apply God's word to their daily lives through the studies and devotions, and praying for them, and developing relationships with them in order to discern their spiritual well-being. But you are not responsible for what they personally do with the resources and opportunities that you have prayerfully provided them. And I like how Luke 10:16 says, whoever listens to you listens to me. Whoever rejects you rejects me. But whoever rejects me rejects him who sent me. So just remember, that burden is not yours to bear, that specific part of it. Also, what you're not to do is be the Lone Ranger. And Brenda touched on that, Alexis kind of touched on that. It doesn't mean that you're going to do this all by yourself. Each board member actually functions like a committee chairperson, somebody who works with a committee to carry out the roles of that position. So for spiritual life, your primary committee is your team of facilitators. So you can think of them that way. They're like your committee that helps you carry out this role of spiritual life. And I also love in Exodus 18, the story of Moses and his father-in-law, and how his father-in-law brings to his attention this truth behind delegation, the importance of it. It tells us that people stood around Moses from morning till evening, and the father-in-law says, what's going on? What are y'all doing? He said, well, they need my help. And he says, and I highlighted it in red down there, what you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. So he gives them guidance. Pick these kind of men, these kind of people, blah, blah, blah. And then it tells us, Moses says, he chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people. So again, this is about not being the Lone Ranger, working with your team and finding people to help you carry these things out. Why have a team? It enables ladies to use their God-given talents. Our PWOC aims, one of them is to develop women's spiritual gifts. So you're providing the opportunity. It also is you're teaching and training others about the behind-the-scenes things of PWOC to enable ministry to continue even after you're gone. This, fluent military lifestyle that we're all a part of means you won't be here forever. We need to train those people. Brenda talked about that a lot. And the other that goes along with the PWOC aim of involving women in chapel ministry. Also, people feel more part of PWOC when you get more involved behind the scenes. And that's true for other things other than just PWOC. And of course, it lessens your load. It prevents burnout for you, like Moses' father-in-law mentioned. So let's move on. Oh, Margaret. Okay, great. Now I just feel this heavy burden. Where on earth do I start? Well, begin by looking up and out and in. So let's break this down. Up in prayer. Look up in prayer. Be filled with and led by the Holy Spirit. Continually seek his guidance. And keep in mind a couple verses here. Your king will lead you. The Lord himself will guide you. It's so important to have him with us and that we're following his guidance. And also remember in Psalms, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. We also need to look out. What that means is seek godly counsel. This is really important throughout the whole year. It's really important if you find somebody, not necessarily in your own PWOC group, and actually it's kind of nice if they're not in your PWOC group, but find somebody just to pray for you throughout the whole entire year. She'll be your, praying on your behalf wherever she's located, wherever you're located. She's praying for you throughout the year. Proverbs tells us in 2 places, plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. And also in Proverbs, get all the advice and instruction you can so you'll be wise the rest of your life. So these are ladies that you're going to be reaching out to in addition to the person to pray for you, people that you're going to seek godly counsel from. And it could be your Titus 2 person. In some boards, Titus 2 actually has 2 positions or 2 ladies holding Titus 2. Sometimes when you have that scenario, it's helpful to say, okay, this Titus 2 is our Titus 2 for the body. If ladies need some help from a Titus 2 person, body, go to her. But you know what? Me, PWOC, I need a Titus 2 lady as well. And so she might be the Titus 2 lady for you and the president or something like that. So, or maybe she'll just be for the president or whatever. But that's something to take into consideration is maybe, utilizing your Titus 2 lady as your prayer person to pray with you during the year. Okay, then we need to look in. And what I mean by that is develop and use leadership qualities and skills. There are some key leadership things. Brenda talked about leadership. Books have been written about leadership. We can spend a whole lifetime on leadership. So there are so many important leadership skills, but what I'm just going to focus on right now are some that you're going to end up using a lot or needing or will be helpful to you in this role. So one of them is thinking about different personality types. What I mean by that is to use that information as a filter in the forefront of your mind. We all have these personality differences in the back of our mind, but put them up to the front of your mind so that you're using it as a filter when you receive words from different ladies. When you receive words from them, you're filtering through their personality type. So for example, somebody barks at you or something and you're like, okay, I need to remember, well, okay, the first thing though is of course, godly prayer and you're walking in God's ways. We got that part. I'm making an assumption here. Now when it's coming to you, you're also realizing her personality and you're thinking, okay, that's just the kind of person that she is. She's pretty blunt and forward and boom, get on and move on to the next thing. It's not me. She's not barking at me when she says these things to me. Also think about personality types when you think about delivery. You need to be really aware of your own personality types and some of those strengths and weaknesses that go along with it so that you're aware of how you can come across to people when you approach them in their different personality types. So if you're talking to a golden retriever and you're a lion, you might have just totally put that lady in tears. If you're talking to a golden retriever and you're a lion and you think, okay, I'm talking to a golden retriever, how do I need to best deliver this information in regards to her personality type, regarding her personality type, I'm taking that into consideration when I'm delivering my, whatever it is I need to say to her as well. And then number 2, prayerfully plan ahead and prepare with a backup plan. Of course, we know this all as military families, all of us. And through this pandemic, a lot of the world has realized the benefit of this as well, something that we as military families have been living as we live our military lives. But more people are understanding about this now. Prayerfully plan ahead and be prepared with a backup plan, however. Let's put some examples on here. The books didn't come in. Oh, that money that you thought you had for so-and-so, they told you 2 days before, no, you can't have it. The card holder is sick. We can't find another card holder. Sorry, we're going to have to do something else. We can't meet you at the commissary or something like that. Be prepared with a backup plan. Number 3, communicate, and over-communicate. With the president, with your board members, with other board members, with the facilitators. And what you're also doing is one of you mentioned, how do I get stuff, and one of the questions on the SurveyMonkey was, how do I better communicate with the people in the body? You don't necessarily need to feel like you have to talk to all of them. Again, this is about delegating. So you are equipping your team, and that would be your facilitators, to reach out to the body and get messages out to them. So you are equipping and communicating with your facilitators, and then communicating to them that they need to be communicating to their group members, whatever the information is, the announcements are, whatever it is that we're talking about. Okay, and last one about this, relationships. Life is about people. Be intentional about making and building relationships. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes energy. Yes, it takes thought and planning, especially if we're quarantined, and also if you're an introvert. But it takes time and it takes planning, and don't forget. Okay, now, so what do we do first? Work on those 3 things. Next, let's talk about the timeline. Once you are appointed, it right away is a good time to assess the needs of your people. It's great to be able to do this through electronic means now. Even before this happened, I was all in favor of electronic means of collecting surveys. SurveyMonkey will let you do up to 10 questions free. But paper is really, really great, or sending it out to them in paper form or whatever, because you can fit a little bit more information. And that's one of the handouts that I shared with you today. If you want to look at that and pull that up, I don't have a picture of that one to refer to right now, but it is one of today's handouts or the downloads. And it's asking them, if you look at that one that I sent, it's asking them a bunch of different things. The survey is not just, hey, what study do you want this year? It's asking, what studies would you like? What books have you seen are helpful before? What would you be interested in being a facilitator? It's got lots of other things on it. And some people are leery about surveys. They're saying, I'm not going to do a survey. I'm just going to pray about it, and I'm not going to do a survey. I completely agree that prayer is the first and foremost important thing to do, and that you should follow how the Lord leads your group at this time. Maybe it was your group last year that did it this way, and this year God's leading your group to do it differently. Next year, he might lead them to do it even another different way. It's okay. How does he want you to do it this year? Okay. But there are some positive benefits that a survey can give you, which warrant a little bit of consideration. Prayer and the surveys can go hand in hand. Some people, I think, have the mindset that conducting a survey negates prayer or what you found out through prayer. It certainly does not. Those survey responses might just reinforce what you sensed the Holy Spirit was leading you to offer as the studies all along. Another thing is you're gaining insight into the lady's needs and desires. And there might be something surprising that it reveals at times. One thing it could mean is that although you sense the Holy Spirit leading you in these different classes to offer these classes, the Holy Spirit also worked through those responses to show you that he also wants you to add a study. Not necessarily, okay, I can't do this anymore, I have to do this. Maybe he wants you to consider another study. Maybe offer it in the evenings. Another thing that it can reveal, the fact that it reveals needs, is that maybe it's revealing a need within the body that you share with the president and the board and consider addressing in another way. Maybe make it an in-reach activity. Maybe it needs to be a devotional topic. Maybe it's something that program person wants to take into consideration for her program day. Another good thing about surveys is at some installations, the highly verbal ladies, which often are the very few ladies, don't represent the body as a whole. And this way a survey will give you a better view of your body as a whole, because you are hearing from those less verbal women, or the women who don't necessarily feel like they can tell you things. So a survey is really good in that way as well. You're getting a better picture of your group. Okay, on to finances. So at the beginning, you are assessing your needs right away, and then you're checking with your financial person, financial liaison, what's the budget? What is our budget? And then you're going to discuss plans with about summer plans with the president. If you're going to do a summer study, I have a couple recommendations. Focus on making them easy and simple meetings. Some people have seen Zoom as a way to take away from summer studies, when in the end it might have been might be a way to give us what we need in summer studies, making things more accessible, making things less intense for the board and for you. During summer studies, you don't want to burn out your board before you even started the fall semester. That has happened before. We're suddenly got our positions, now we've got to get in this summer program and do these things and make it awesome, and we want to get a good first impression, and we made it through the summer. Oh my goodness, we haven't even started our year yet. And now it's keep going, keep going, keep going. So really encourage you to think about that and take that into consideration as you think about your summer studies, what you're going to do for the summer studies, if you're going to do anything at all. Okay, moving on. Next thing you're going to do is choose your studies and select your facilitators. And these are actually happening simultaneously. When it comes to choosing your studies, prayer is top number one. Of course, we've talked about that. There are some other things to take into consideration, however. Pray about, think about, talk to your board about. Maybe you do some of these things, maybe you don't do some things, whatever. Okay, first of all, the yearly theme and the 4 aims. Now, Alexis already covered that a lot, so I won't get into that. Biblically sound and accurate studies. Biblically sound and accurate studies. One comment from one of my friends who's a former spiritual life, I'm going to read this to you. She said, picking books and authors that share gospel truths is so very important. We have so many women who are non-believers or babies in their faith, or even mature women. So we need to do our part through thorough prayer and wise counsel to pick studies that steer them away from fluff, rocky paths, false teachers, and false doctrines. Basically, we need to pray and do our homework. One of you said, how on earth, in the SurveyMonkey question, one of you said, how on earth do I get to read all these or see all these? Or how do I have time for this? Reach out. Again, you don't have to just think about your PWOC ladies with you right now. You might have other spiritual women in your lives that are located in other places of the country. Ask them if they can help you. Hey, can you do a quick read on this book? Can you do a quick read on this book and this book and this book? Or, blast them out a message. Have any of you read so-and-so book? Can you tell me about it? Now, of course, you want to go through people who are spiritually sound themselves to get this feedback from them. And it's kind of helpful, actually, if you go on Amazon or some of the other sites and read people's comments. I've done that before. Read their comments, read through the number 1s and the number 5s. And you might be like, oh, that one comment from that one person, let me know this author is not for us. So Yes, it does take time. It does take homework, but you do have other people who can help you with that too. Other considerations, of course, the needs of the body. That's what your survey is going to reveal. Physical needs and limitations. Of course, one right now is quarantining. Another one is what Alexis mentioned. How many rooms do we have? How many ladies do we have? Do we have the equipment available? Let's say we wanted to do a video study or something. Another thing to think about is the variety of topics. Topics or studies that would meet the needs and interests of believers and non-believers. Do you want to do parenting class? Do you want to do a marriage class? You know, it would be of interest to people and bring them in to PWOC as well. Because remember, one of the things of PWOC is to lead people to Christ. So maybe my neighbor is not interested in a book on Hebrews. She doesn't even know what Hebrews is or where it is, or, oh, didn't even know it was in the Bible. But you know what? She's really struggling with her kids right now, and she could really use some help about kids. So let's give her some spiritual guidance and biblical foundations of parenting. So things to think about. Drop-in class or a standalone class. What that would be for is if somebody comes, PCSs, or hears about PWOC halfway through the semester, they don't feel like, oh, I can't join your PWOC yet because all the studies are full. They're already halfway through a book. They're already halfway through a study. So that's helpful for those scenarios. One thing to think about is if you want to select the studies for your entire year right up front. I enjoyed doing that, and I know a lot of ladies gave feedback that they really enjoyed when that happened because they can take into consideration the spring classes when they are picking what they want to take in the fall. Oh, this is going to be offered on both semesters? Oh, well, then I definitely want to take this, you know, Hebrews class because I really want to get into Hebrews. So I'll do the Hebrews class now, and I'll save that other study till second semester because it's going to be offered both semesters. Or, you know, anyways, they can look at the whole year and possibly take into consideration what's going to be offered in the spring when they make their decision for the fall class. Big thing, okay, sorry, note at the bottom. It's helpful if you can place your order 2 or 3 months before kickoff day in the fall and the spring. And it might have been that some of you already did order your studies, primarily because like the chaplain told you, you got to get that money in for us to get the funds going, for us to get them in time and so forth, or things like that. So it's helpful because sometimes the process just takes a long time when you're working through the system. So ordering as far in advance as you can alleviates that. If you've planned your semester, both semesters, and you were actually able to purchase them all when you put the big, huge order together, then that's one less thing you have to do later on is jump through the hoops of turning in the PORs and stuff for second semester books to order because you already ordered them in the fall with all of them. If you had enough money and they let you do that. That's to work out with your financial liaison person. Okay. Another thing to remember is you can't please everyone, okay? There will be people that you just can't please. And I want to read what another friend put as her words of wisdom. And I really like this because it addressed one of your questions about how to offer video studies. How should we do that? One of you asked that. Little long, so hang in with me. You can't please everyone. After prayer and careful coordination, you will have your studies together. Then you will start hearing opinions from others of, why didn't you offer this study? Or, none of these studies are interesting to me. Stand strong and firm. There will always be people you cannot please. You usually hear more negative and not as much positive. Remember, like I said, you hear from the select few sometimes that will tell you the no's and not give you the positives. Here's a true life example. One semester, I coordinated 2 different video studies of those 8 studies that were offered. 2 were video. One had a video every week with limited time for discussion. The other study had the video 1 week and the following week was only discussion. So lots of discussion time was available. I did this intentionally, and they were introduced, explained at the beginning so that ladies could choose which class they wanted to go to, knowing how much discussion time was available. At the end of the semester, I received feedback from the studies. The class with a video every week wanted a discussion week in between. The class with the separate discussion week wanted to condense it and have a video every week. You just cannot please everyone. So if you are considering a video, there's some ways to handle video studies as well. Moving on. Next thing you're going to do, again, simultaneously as you're trying to figure out your studies and praying about it, is select your facilitators. Again, big pray, 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 pray. Seek godly counsel. Remember what we talked about. Discuss these ladies that you are considering with your president and your Titus II ladies. There might be some information that they're aware of in those members' lives that you're not aware of, and you don't necessarily need to be aware of, but they might need to tell you right now is not a good time to ask her to be a facilitator. Honor their statement and move on. I highly recommend co-facilitators. If you've never tried it before, it's awesome. It's great to have 2 per class. Here's some reasons why. It will help you avoid your facilitator burning them out. It's going to ensure well-rounded spiritual leadership of the class. This is a good way to get some of those ladies who they're they're firm in foundation, they're always the leaders, they're always the people leading the classes, for you to bring alongside with them, maybe some ladies that aren't as spiritually mature. And it helps them develop that way. But it gives you that team of the 2 to bring to the class in leadership. Also, they will complete and complement each other, possibly, because they are different personalities. You could be offering different personalities, and they are offering their God-given abilities and talents. So you're making a better picture, like marriage. Excuse me. You're also multiplying your facilitators. You're training them how to be facilitators through their classes and their experience of leading a class, even if it was a co-leading. Now, after a semester, you can say, hey, you know what? You did an awesome job with that. Now I'd love to break each of you 2 up and now bring alongside each of you somebody else for second semester. And now you've just equipped 4 ladies for ministry from the beginning, start of just the 2. Also, it helps those who are hesitant to take on the role. They might be hesitant because they're like, I don't have time. I really don't have time. I just can't do this semester. Well, hey, you know what? I want to put you with so-and-so, and you 2 would co-lead. They're like, oh, maybe I could do that. So sometimes it takes away some hesitations. Your search may take some time, and it's okay to wait. You might be searching all through this summer. And I know at times it's been the week before classes kicked off, there wasn't a leader, but God still provided within that last week. It's okay to wait. Also, in the fall is when you're searching for your spring facilitators. And again, I want to bring up a quote from a friend. Carefully choose your facilitators. Get to know them, at least some, before choosing them, especially if they volunteer and you don't know them yet. Don't panic if it takes a while to find a facilitator for a study. The last thing you want is to throw someone not ready to lead into the position just to have someone there. Trust that God will provide. He led you to the studies you chose. He will provide the facilitators. Okay. What do you do after that? You're going to assess your calendar. Now, what do I mean by that? You look at the calendar that's been put together by the board. The president and you and the board formed this calendar for the whole year, and it outlines the PWOC meeting dates. When are they going to start and end each semester? When are we going to have board meeting dates? When are the program dates going to be in here? Are we having special lunches? When are our breaks for holidays? That's the calendar I'm talking about, the one that's been built by your body. It's your PWOC yearly calendar. So that's been established. Now, assess that calendar. Determining how many days in each semester that you have for actual class time that you have for meeting in those small groups, in the Bible study groups. Then make lesson plans for each of the Bible studies. So you take a Bible study, depending on how many chapters it is, and you decide we're going to cover chapter so-and-so on this date, chapter so-and-so on this date, so-and-so on this date. And so that's kind of like your lesson planning for the Bible study. The next one, determine when your initial facilitator training will be, and that's going to be a lunch training, and we call it the team trainings meeting. I call it that for myself, for when I'm leading them. When will that occur? You will have 2 per year, one before fall semester, one before spring semester, and what you're doing is you're training those teachers who are about to facilitate in the fall and about to facilitate in the spring. And you want to do it immediately before the start of each of those semesters. So you're going to put it on the calendar right away because you need to reserve the meeting room, reserve the child care. You need to check with your finance people, though, and see if you're providing child care at your PWOC or what you're doing, or however that goes. But there are some things that you need to do behind the scenes. So getting it on the calendar right away helps that. And then the next one, determine when that second team training meeting will be. And it's like an appreciation lunch to your facilitators. And again, that'll be 2 per year. It's better to not have them right in the middle of the semester, but to have it a little bit earlier. And we'll talk about why in a minute. Again, part of it is that you need to put it on the calendar. You need to reserve the meeting rooms and reserve the child care and stuff like that. You're working with your admin coordinator on some of those things. Then, time to train our facilitators. We picked our studies. One of our other things as spiritual life leaders is to train our facilitators. Picked our studies, picked our facilitators, we need to train them. So, you're going to have an initial team training meeting. Why is it called TEAMS? Because TEAM stands for train, encourage, appreciate, and motivate. You're going to schedule the meeting before the start of each semester. An easy way to do that, now this isn't in the midst of COVID, but if you're getting together for this meeting is what I'm talking about. School starts, the kids are off in school, so they're kind of taken care of. You've got a little bit more time at home without them, so you can go off to a meeting. Now, Zoom, you can do it as a Zoom meeting very easily as well. But basically, school starts, and then try to get it in that first week of when school started, because you're probably going to kick in to have PWOC start your week right after that. Okay, so we scheduled the meeting. What am I going to do? Some of you asked, what do I do for training? What's your favorite training materials? I'll show you those. It includes the leader notes as well, and it's found in the hub. And I put in your notes there, in your outline, exactly how to find it, but I'm about to show you how to get there. When you first go to the hub, you're going to see a page that looks like this. And, excuse me, in the upper left-hand corner, it says Board Resources. Click on that, and it'll take you to a page that looks like this. See how it says Board Resources in the upper left-hand corner here. But the first thing on here right now is our training today, what's going on today. And if you do want to come back and see some of these resources from today's training, it's right there. But you keep scrolling down, and you'll get to this section is normally how it starts. You see selected board positions listed right here. That's you, all the executive board, versus appointed board positions, and they're all listed here. Well, these are great resources for you as the Spiritual Life VP. So you click on that one for Spiritual Life, and it's going to bring you to this. This is chock full of resources, ladies, like Lauren mentioned earlier today. So lots of different things you can do, you can glean from out of here. Go down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see this right here, Team Time, that has hands on a ball. That's the one I'm going to be talking about. That's the one that I asked you to access for today. Another place that you can see it is, look what I passed up just a second before then, all the virtual training handouts that I said for this session today are right here as well. So they're going to stay on this Spiritual Life page, right here is virtual training, and it's the first one, Team Time Guide with Leader Notes. Okay, this team training time, when I'm conducting it with facilitators, takes 3 hours. So unfortunately, this morning isn't the time to go through that. And some of your questions are actually addressed in that because they are questions that apply to facilitators. What does the facilitator do if there's somebody doing this in class? What does the facilitator do if there's somebody doing this? How do I help my facilitators address this issue? That is in that manual. If you go to, I forgot what it's called on Microsoft, on Word. If you go to Notes, I think it's called View, you're going to see on the right-hand side a bunch of my comments as you walk through there. Now, mid-semester, you're going to have that second team training. Again, actually do it slightly earlier than mid-semester, and here's why. You want to discuss concerns earlier in the semester rather than later. And you want to remind them of things that were discussed during that initial team training meeting that they might have forgotten by this point, because a lot is covered during that 3-hour training. So they've had a chance to start their classes. They've gotten some scenarios happening. Now they've got some questions. Oh, and remember, are you remembering to do this and this that we talked about in the team meetings? Oh, and oh, I forgot about that. I've been so busy with that, this other stuff. Hold on one second. Allergies. And another thing is to ask the pals to help with lunch. And I did say that, I mentioned that in the first one as well, but now I'm going to expand on what these pals are. You can start the PALS program in your PWOC if you choose to do so. It stands for Pray, Affirm, Lift Up, and Support. Now, where do I find that stuff? Remember when I pointed you out to all these downloads? This one that says Facilitator, PALS, Info Sheet. That was one of the downloads that you have for today. That's what I'm going to talk about in a minute here. It looks like this. So you have, this is the handout that I'm talking about. And I'm going to blow up the top of it and let's see, expand it on my screen a little bit better so I can read it. The second paragraph after the verse, excuse me, the first paragraph, but right after the verse. Thank you for supporting a class facilitator by offering prayers for and encouragement to the facilitator throughout the semester. Below is the name of and contact information for the facilitator you will be supporting and some personal information about her to help you get to know her and minister to her personally. Please keep in mind that the greatest need she has from you is prayer. Please be committed to praying for her on a regular basis throughout the semester. Giving or sending her notes, emails, texts could be a way to encourage her as well. If you would like, you can also give her small, inexpensive tokens to help her feel appreciated. And then it has information about the facilitator, like, let's go back to the big picture, all that contact information for her. And then these are, how can you pray for me specifically? And in case they did want to give her some small token, these are some things you can get to know me better, or maybe make a fun verse for her or something like that. So what do you do once you have this information? Make a copy of each one of them, that's of your facilitators, and you keep a copy, and then you take that original, fold it up, put it in an envelope, along with a picture of the facilitator, and maybe the facilitator's name on a pretty little piece of paper, however you want to scrapbook that or something like that, and slip that in the envelope. And then, one of the first days of your class for the semester, or PWOC for the semester, you explain to the body about the PALS program and what it is. And you say, I have all these facilitators, and you hold up all those envelopes, and no one's names are on the outside. These are our facilitators this semester, and here's our program, and here's what we'd like you to do for them. Who would like to support a facilitator? And you just randomly hand those envelopes out to the body. And you can tell your facilitators, you can tell the pals that are pairing with you, they're welcome to reveal themselves to the facilitators if they want to, or not. If they wanted to keep it a surprise, and at the end they let the facilitator know that she's been her pal the whole semester. You know, that's just up to the pals. but it's a way to cover your people in prayer. And also a way to, again, get more people in the body involved. You don't need to be the one and only person encouraging and praying for these ladies. Let's put together other people in our body. Again, Moses, equipping the people for the work. Another thing you need to do is coordinate kickoff. And I'm going to pause for one moment as I try to find my timer. Somebody want to give me a shout out for how much time it says on the timer?
You have 31 minutes.
Okay. I know. It moved on me. Okay. Next thing you want to do is coordinate your kickoff. Will your PWOC be introducing the fall studies and spring studies during each semester's kickoff program or not? And if you are, then you're going to definitely need to be working with your programs person on some details concerning that. How are the studies going to be presented? Skits. A lot of people like to do skits. That's kind of fun or whatever. While we're quarantined, are your facilitators going to make little video clips and put them on? Or you and your team going to do, how are you going to do this? How are you going to introduce or present the studies? And how are signups going to occur? Do you want to do a Google form while we're all quarantined? Do you want to do a Google form? Populates on Google Sheets. That's what I did for getting you all to sign up for this. Easy to sort, all those sort of fun things. Or is it going to be paper and they fill it out on the first day if you all happen to be together physically? Another thing to realize and think about is devotions on PWOC mornings. First discussion should be with the president. Discuss the idea with her. When it comes to the devotional plans to the devotions on whatever your morning is, does she want to share devotions occasionally or not at all? Do you, as spiritual life leader, want to share some devotions occasionally? Do you all want to have your people make videos and you upload them to your Facebook page? Different people sharing different devotions video-wise. What is it that you all want to do together as a team? So definitely need to check with the president on that. Are you going to ask different people to share each week? If you do, prayerfully seek out whom will share those devotions. I am very much opposed to passing around a sign-up sheet. Some people will disagree with me, but again, prayerfully seek out the ladies to share. So you are seeking them out. They should be carefully chosen. Do they need to be leading perfect lives? No. But what it does mean is that you have prayed about it and seek God's guidance on asking this lady to do it. And let's jump down to the bottom for a second. You are giving them guidance and helping and coaching them and rehearsing them about their devotional sharing time. So if somebody isn't as strong as someone else, you're hearing what she's about to share and so forth. So it's not that we can only ask certain people, but again, with prayer, God leading, and then give that guidance and help and coach them as well. Okay, back up to letter C then. Ideas of ladies who can share. You could ask board members. You could ask facilitators. And one semester, we had one person per Bible study share. And it was really neat because it was a way to say, you know what, I'm in so-and-so class this semester, and we are just learning so much about blah, blah, blah. And, but one thing and lesson that's really standing out for me during this study is do. They might be like, wow, I need to go get that book. Oh, I need to take that study next semester. Oh, wow, that's just so cool. So they are, although they couldn't be in that study that semester because they chose this one, they're gleaning something from the other studies that are happening that semester. So that was really, got a lot of good feedback on that semester. People really enjoyed that. Okay, another thing that you're going to be working on is board spiritual growth, encouraging board spiritual growth. What does that mean? Okay, For one thing, during board meetings, there's a devotional time. So you want to discuss that with the president. During the board meeting devotionals, is she leading them? Are you leading them? Are we having board members take turns leading them? What are we doing on board meetings about a devotional time? Because again, we don't want to get the board, we don't want to lose sight of the board's spiritual growth. So communicate back to the beginning. You want to ask the president, you want to seek her out, because she might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, that's a given that you're doing them. Okay, well, I just didn't know. We just needed to, I want to make sure, because there could be the president that goes, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing them. That's a given. Wait a minute. So different people might have a certain mindset of certain ways that they thought they were going to do something or want to do something and didn't clearly communicate it. So communicate, so everybody's on the same page. A board book. Sometimes people like to do board books. Excuse me. I'm talking a physical book, like a book to read. You can maybe you want to do it this way. Select one book for all board members to read together. Maybe assign each of the board members a specific chapter, and then they summarize that chapter at the board meeting. And that's what we did one time with this book right here. This is Spiritual Leadership by Henry and Richard Blackaby. And it was that certain chapters were assigned to us, and then at the board meetings, a couple people would share a couple chapters, because as you can see, it's a pretty fat book. Another thing I did one year was the board members might have a bunch of different things going on in their lives, and God wants this person to focus on this in her spiritual walk. God wants this board member to focus on this in her spiritual life, and this, and this, and this. So I encourage them to select their own personal growth book of the topic, or maybe it was a Bible book that they felt God leading them to study and work on in their personal lives. And then when it came time for the board meetings, they shared about those books. About 2 or 3 people shared per board meeting. And I let them know when their time would be to share, and reminded them, those kind of things. So that's another way that you can encourage spiritual growth amongst your board members. What things will I continually be doing throughout the whole year? Well, you're going to continue looking up, out, and in. Don't forget those things from the very beginning, the foundational things that are so important. You're going to also need to keep records of what you are doing and what you have been doing. So one of those, all those records though, like I put on there, there are examples of them on that spiritual life part of the page on the hub. One of those things is a monthly board report. You're going to complete it and share it at every board meeting. Another thing is, after events take place, whether it was the facilitator appreciation lunch, studies at the end of each semester, the summer plan or studies, you're going to complete an AAR, an after action report, after each of those. What things went well? What did we need to improve on? At the end of the year, you're doing one of those as well, and we call it the end of year AAR. And ladies, take notes as you go along. Don't wait till, oh, I don't have time to write about this. I don't have time to take this note, because at the end of the year, you're really not going to have time. Spring semester hits, and there's a lot in life going on outside of PWOC at the end of spring, at the end of the school year, at the end of everything, when you're trying to put this end of year AAR all together. I did put as the list of resources an example of the end of the year one that I did at Fort Polk one year. And in that one is a detailed description of the PALS program. So again, you can go to the one that I did. It's the end of the year. It's one of those resources that I had you pull up today. And it's got detailed paragraphs and so forth of how the year went, certain categories of topics like what we're talking about today. And then in the part of the PALS, I explain in detail. Because if you're like, Margaret, you just talked about that way too fast. I'm not going to remember how you did that. What was the thing about the envelopes? It's in there. So you can pull that up and read that again. Okay, you're also going to be keeping a continuity binder. We call it a notebook, First VP Spiritual Life Notebook. And it's going to have your monthly board reports in it. It's going to have your AARs in it from each of your events. It's going to have your end of the year AAR. All these different things will be in there. And again, look at the hub. There is a link. It says keeping a position notebook that explains all about the notebook. And then continuity/electronic files checklist. It gives you a list of the types of resources and things to keep in that binder. Another thing that you're going to be doing throughout the year is communicate with and encourage your facilitators. Weekly emails, or whatever platform you want to use, definitely at least weekly. Include announcements. Now let me make a caveat. I just said at least weekly. I encourage you not to bombard your ladies with a whole bunch of stuff always. They do have life outside of this role of facilitator. They have some other things to do. So if you can condense things and be succinct, maybe it's one long email, but they'll know that they're getting an email from you every Monday, and ask them, I know it's long, but please, it's thorough. Instead of sending you a bunch of texts or messages throughout the week, it's all going to be there. But you might feel your ladies out and see your facilitators, do they want to go ahead and do constant chats or whatever? You can put them all together on a Facebook message group. That's what we had, the leadership team, when we were putting this together. But I did not want to bombard them 6 times a day with stuff as we were coming up to this month that we've been planning this. So instead, I really tried to do just once or twice a week, reach out to them about things to do with this seminar. So keep your ladies in mind as you are communicating with them. Notes of encouragement, small creative tokens of appreciation. Again, implementing the POW programs helps to equip others to do the work, and you're not the only one encouraging them. Get some other people along, Moses and his helpers. At the end of each semester, you're going to have a Facilitator Appreciation Day. And that's a time when, in your opening session at PWOC meeting, you can give them a gift on behalf of all PWOC. You need to check with your financial liaison, however. Whenever I'm talking about gifts or childcare, some of you, depending especially on your different branches of service, you have different requirements from the funds office as to what you're allowed to do with your money, or what you can do with spend money on. NAF, AF, that's a whole nother ballgame. So you might be able to give them a gift, might not, at least from the chapel funds. But if you can, you're giving them a gift on behalf of the PWOC as a whole. And at the same time, you let the body know, hey, Facilitator Appreciation Day is coming up. So if you want to give a note or a small token of appreciation to your own class facilitator, this would be a great day to do that. So it's not just, they're individually saying thanks to their facilitators, and you are representing the body as a whole and appreciating the facilitators. Another thing all year long, communicating with the board members. And I've mentioned several times ways that you will be communicating with the president. You're going to be communicating with programs we talked about during kickoff. But here's another thing to think about. When she's doing programs, is she going to have devotions during the programs and wants help with those? Are you going to do them? Are you finding someone to do them? Communicate. Administrative coordinator, she's going to be the one you're giving those monthly board reports to. Building reservations, any sort of thing like that. Putting things on the calendar, that's the admin coordinator. Your financial liaison, y'all are going to become real good buds as you're trying to order your books and do all that kind of fun stuff. Ordering books, ordering food for your Facilitator Appreciation Lunch. Again, appreciation gifts, if you're able to, check about that. You might need to complete the purchase order reports for her, the PORs. You're going to be working with her a lot in fun sort of things. Also, I mentioned this at the beginning, funds requests can take a long time to process. So she'll probably give you some timelines on when she needs that sort of stuff. You're going to be communicating with hospitality when it comes to serving our sisters, SOS, some sort of food time that you are sharing food, possibly with women in your group, coordinating with the hospitality people on that. InReach, let's go back to, we talked about those surveys earlier. Did those surveys show some certain needs that the body has that maybe would be best met through a special event. Maybe you offer it as an in-reach event, not necessarily offering it as a Bible study. Again, those surveys, they're really good. And then publicity. When it comes to the studies that are being offered, are you working with her on how to publicize them? Again, you're going to be working with programs and publicity when it comes to all this, because if you're introducing your studies during kickoff, you're going to be talking to both of those ladies and working with them on this at the same time. Another thing happening all year. Oops. Sorry, number 5. Coordinate and oversee the devotion on PWOC mornings. Again, like I already discussed, you're discussing the plan with the president. What are we going to do for devotions on Tuesday mornings, Thursday mornings? And if you are having people do it, you're prayerfully seeking out who will do those, you're providing coaching, etc. And you're going to be coordinating and overseeing the devotion during the board meetings. And we talked about that, if it's needed. Okay, now, are you feeling overwhelmed? Oh my gosh, you weren't kidding, Margaret. We just drank from this fire hydrant. And first of all, remember the topics that I've talked about. You aren't doing this alone. You are definitely doing this with a whole bunch of prayer, and the Lord is behind this and giving you the strength to do these things. But again, you're not doing them alone. You have teams, you have resources, people that you are reaching out to help you with all these different areas. Speaking of reaching out for resources, again, on the hub, lots of good stuff for spiritual life. Lauren we talked about the Facebook networking pages. There's one Facebook page per position. She explained that a little bit. Some of them aren't there right now. You've got a continuity notebook from the previous spiritual life person. Look at those notebooks. You can also look into your body. You might have women in your body who have had certain roles before, and seek their guidance and wisdom and help in your role. You are welcome to contact me at any time, and I field all the emails from the PWC training at gmail.com, so you can send an email that way, or you can send it to, and I didn't put this on there, I meant to m.bart@me.com. Pretty easy, or if you're, I'll put that in the chat later. Okay, words of wisdom from my former friends. And I, again, apologize that my timer disappeared. So can somebody do another shout out? How much time we have left?
You have 13 minutes.
Thank you. Oh, and right when you said that, it appeared. Never mind. Okay. Here are words of wisdom from my sisters, and your sisters too, by the way. Pray and focus on relationships. Pray as you pick the studies and facilitators. Pray as the year goes by. Pray when it's all said and done. Trust that God is going to use all for his glory and the good of each lady. And then just be there and enjoy relationships. Another friend says, I've learned leadership brings few good friends and many acquaintances. Pray for discernment to know the difference and surround yourself with trusted, wise women that will pray for you faithfully. Be willing to be mentored along and stay humble. One thing I wish someone would have told me is to research the authors more. Learn their belief systems and worldview instead of choosing studies popular at the moment. Pray, pray, pray. Another friend says, idealistically, a spiritual life leader's study selections should excite the participants, especially since one has prayed over the study selections. However, realistically, this is not always the case, and thus could discourage you as the first vice president. So her one word is encouragement. Encouragement for you as the first VP, encouragement for your facilitators. Margaret, you taught me this when you highly recommended an appreciation lunch for my facilitators halfway through each semester. Encouragement. Another friend said, remain faithful to the vision and mission God has given you for the year. Receiving feedback is great. However, take the time to assess. It's okay not to have an answer right away, to ensure it aligns with what God is currently doing. Also, by strengthening the relationships between your president and other board members, we were able to provide better spiritual guidance for the body as a unit. The strength in our relationship helped to provide a barrier against darts that can easily be thrown by the enemy. Being with one accord made a world of difference. Another friend says, offer as much scripture studies as possible. The more I was in PWOC, the more I saw the next generation of ladies coming in that was less biblically literate than the one before. The Word of God contains everything we need for life and godliness. If we know that ourselves, we're responsible for training, discipling those after us to know the same. Another friend, make sure amidst thinking for the group's spiritual life that the leader continues to nurture her own spirit with seeking, submitting to the Holy Spirit for her own soul in her marriage, her parenting, in other personal relationships, her relating to the other board members, in serving each lady in PWOC. And final word of advice from your friendly PWOC sisters. She says, Luke 10, 1-3. God gave me this at training in May, right after being installed as spiritual life. I felt the Lord saying, just pray. Ask me to direct you to the studies. Ask me to bring the right facilitators. Ask me to help guide women to the right class, and so on and so on. I stood amazed at all he did that had nothing to do with my ability or my plans. So pray. So let me go to this mode now. So that is what I have for you in the outline that we just went through and all those resources. Again, they're on that link and available on the hub, but it looks like we have 9 minutes left. So what I'd like to do now is open it up to questions that you all might have, and we'll see like what we can do in the next 9 minutes. And I'm gonna change my view to gallery view just so I can see y'all a little bit better. But if you want to unmute your mic and let us know what those are.
So Margaret, I had a question. I can undo my audio as well. So we have a lot of different studies that meet in the evening or at off times. What would you recommend as far as the spiritual life? How often do you visit and make sure that you're touching base with all of your classes, even if they're not meeting on Tuesday morning?
The VP going into those classes, is that what you're saying, Stephanie?
Yes, yeah, or just touching base on email. Obviously, this past year, I've been a part of this PWC, and I have never set foot in multiple classes because they don't meet on Tuesday morning. So I want to make relationships with those facilitators. How often do I need to be a presence in those meetings, or is just offering that encouragement over emails and in person with the facilitator enough? What would you recommend?
Okay, perfect, Stephanie. Very good question. Brought up a couple points. For one thing that you might see is that you want to help your facilitators. You want to equip them and be communicating with them. Now, the ladies that are in their group, as the semester goes on, a group starts forming a connection. You coming in as an outsider just to kind of sit in on a class might not be as helpful for the group, especially on that day, as you think your presence being there is helpful. It's more important for you to meet with your facilitators separately. And again, Zoom, or at this point, Zoom is like, hey, have an invitation. Don't forget, ladies, we can easily do just like phone calls, video chats on the phone. You don't have to always go through Zoom to have a one-on-one with somebody or that kind of thing. But you know, if you want a video chat with your facilitators, one-on-one, touch base with them, at least once a week with your individual facilitators. But you don't need to feel that pressure or the need to go into their classes and see that. Does that kind of, Stephanie, does that sort of help you address what you were asking?
Yes, it does. I was just thinking when you were talking about presenting gifts, for example, at the end of the semester, or, you know, if there's ever that opportunity to pop in, address the group and leave, or if, like you're saying, that might be more detrimental to the group dynamics and that sort of thing, and
Yep.
just keep communication to just the facilitator outside of class time.
Yep, I would recommend that more so. Hold on. And Trish just gave us the 6-minute warning. So you might want to do that on the very first day or one of the first days at the beginning of their meeting time together. Just come into the class. Hey ladies, I just want to let you know I'm here for you. If you've got, in case you wanted to just meet with a group of ladies on a smaller scale or Zoom in on their meeting, but not stay there. Just to touch base with them that way, but not staying in their whole entire time. Yep. Okay, other questions? We have 5 minutes left. Now what's going to happen is when the 5-minute clock goes, it'll tell us that we have 2 more minutes. So unless something changed, that's how it's supposed to be.
I don't have a question. I just kind of have some helpful advice that I found as I was searching. I was, of course, one of those people like, how in the world am I going to vet all these books? I have all these ideas. How am I going to figure this out? So I went on the hub, and if you go through the hub and you look at past PWOC themes, you go down, you can find all the studies that they were recommended for each theme. And so I went through and said, okay, well, this book has been recommended 5 times. Maybe we should look and see if we've done this. So I think each one has like 20, and it has biblical ones, it has topical studies, it has everything. So if you're really searching and looking for like, how am I going to do this? That's the place to go, I think, because you know that these have been recommended by other PWOC ladies. And so that's been really, really helpful for me. So.
Thank you, Stacey. Yes, I forgot to point that out. That's awesome. Yep. Somebody.
I'm at a very small PWOC. We're at Hanscom Air Force Base, and I have never been at this small of a PWOC. And so right now, the way that they're doing it is like everybody is in one group. And so there's about 20 of us in one area. So it's not really a small Bible study. But I don't know if should we continue on that way, or should we try to break off? It's kind of, we're at that point where it's almost too big, but it's still okay at this point. But I don't know if it gets bigger, if we're going to have to break, and how that's going to work. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Groups of about 20 is a good time to start breaking into at least a group of 2, 2 different groups. That allows those groups to be able to grow. And this is that you're praying and you're doing things to help grow the body. When you have a group of 20, you will lose some dynamics. 20 might be a Bible study group max size, let's put it that way. Last fall semester, I led a marriage one, and we were up to 23 people. If you do have a big group or just a big class, I encourage you to do a lot of breaking out within your class time so that people are getting the one-on-one or small group that a group of 20 doesn't do. So you can all stay together as 20, but plan, I recommend putting in time for during every time that you meet together that you're going to break off in groups of 3 to discuss this study guide or this thing or whatever in this group and this group and this group, and then you're coming back together. So you can leave your whole body together studying all one, and then take time to break out into small groups so that everybody gets that personal interaction with the study and with each other.
Thank you.
It says 2 minutes, and then we'll have 2 more minutes after that. Again, if everything goes as it's supposed to.
So I kind of have a question that goes along with one that's already been asked, but I'm stepping into the VP of Spiritual Life down here on Hobart Field. And our VP of Spiritual Life that is now becoming the president was here as our VP for the last half of the year. So before that, we didn't really have a VP of Spiritual Life for that first half of the year. And then last year we had one, but it was just different how the dynamics worked. So we do have another study that meets, I guess, on Thursday nights. I didn't know much about that, and I'm trying to figure out. I think that they just kind of run their own thing. How do I step into the role and be as helpful as possible without making them feel like I want to take over? Because I don't want to take over.
Right.
But I want to be able to be a part of it and help and make sure that our ladies know about it too, because not a lot of our ladies knew that we had a Thursday night meeting.
Okay. So for your PWOC as a whole, that's a really good thing to bring up to your publicity, that get that word out, and you constantly talk about it on your PWOC mornings, that it's available, not just for working ladies, but other ladies who are coming to PWOC, on the morning times, encouraging them to attend, getting the word out. Just treating it like you do all of your other studies. When you're presenting your fall studies, here's a list of our fall studies. Include that. That you need to make them feel like they are a part of the group by including them in things like that. You don't necessarily need to go to them or be to them, kind of like we talked about the individual groups themselves feeling like they've built a bond and you might work on, But I know that we're kind of short on time, but if that didn't quite address it, Christine, did that sort of help?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay. So that just flashed up to the breakout rooms. So we have 2 more minutes. Let me just say one last thing. I forgot. Somebody did ask in SurveyMonkey. Do we use all studies tried and true? Do we go with new studies and new people? If you can read them yourselves, spiritually check them out, talk to some of your spiritually sound women and friends and that kind of stuff, just check out these new ones, go for it. We wouldn't know about some of the ladies who are the up-and-coming ladies if somebody had never stepped out and tried them from the beginning. Tried and true, is there anything wrong with them? No. You can have a combination of both. You don't have to just do one or the other. So again, as you're praying and God's leading, the big key thing is, whether it's an old or a new, thoroughly checking out the biblical background of that person and that writer.